I sleep like a log always, or I did till then, and I was always terribly worried that I would not wake up when he cried, and I was delighted to find the slightest whimper from your own child, you're awake immediately, go. After a bit, we realised that he was slow, a polite term for the sort of innocence that the Victorians spoke about. He was slow in standing, slow in sitting, slow in standing, slow in walking, slow in talking. And I took him to the doctor at 8.5 months, and that was when he first sat up, which of course is very late. And I noticed the shape of his head, probably in a different way to previously when he was supine. And went to the doctor and sort of said, his head's a funny shape. And he took that literally and responded, that was how the child had lain within my body and so on. But I wasn't really saying that, I was beginning to sort of say, he's not quite right. And unfortunately the doctor didn't address that at all. I went home, sort of, nobody said anything. But so gradually, we both recognised that he was learning disabled. My mother, who was always very critical of me, was quite slow to see it as well. I think we were very slow, and that's probably a good thing because we bonded so well and didn't have any of that unhappiness to begin with. Then we went through a stage where an intellectual couple how could we have a child that wasn't going to be a deep thinker, a philosopher, a judge? My husband, who's a Christian, or was a Christian, lost his faith during that period. He could not believe that whatever God he believed in could allow us to have a vulnerable child. But we had come to terms with that. He had started to speak, not a big vocabulary, but as we pottered around the house and went up the stairs and sitting up and apple and, sort of basic nouns only. He got about 100 words, which is the equivalent of Pidgin English. And it's far less than it should be, but at least he had speech. And it was beautifully enunciated, nice little treble voice. And then over a period of weeks, and of course I don't remember when it started, it suddenly seemed that he was getting quieter than usual. He wasn't playing up in any way, he hadn't been ill, he had had his vaccinations, and people afterwards asked was that related, but it wasn't timed with that in any way. And to begin with, it's quiet today. It's still quiet today. Gosh, he really hardly did very much today. And then you start sort of trying to encourage speech because he's too quiet, and you still got a little bit of speech. And over a period of weeks, he stopped speaking at all and basically never spoke again. And that regression happens frequently to autistic children. It doesn't happen in other disabilities, which is interesting, and we still don't know why that is. But it's a very, very hard to take. Have I done something wrong? Should I have done something differently? What is going on? One doctor used an expression like elective mute, somebody who elected to be mute, as if Giles was somehow refusing to communicate with me. And of course, in an odd way, that was true. He was backing away from his growing up. And when I look at some of the old photographs, we only had a little camera, so there weren't very many, he tended to push away from people, even as a baby. And the photographs are never terribly flattering, and you sort of think, oh, it's a bit unfortunate, I'm no good at the camera. But actually it was just that he really didn't want to be hugged, he didn't want to be held. So, at the age of about 2.5, his disability was really clearly quite serious, and we went to a diagnostic hospital where it was residential. Children went in on Sunday night, went home on Friday night, and there was a sort of pattern of children going through in a fortnight, and then a diagnosis would be made. And I went in with him and stayed in the mother's unit there, which I found extremely difficult because I was sharing with other mothers, but and other mothers that I wouldn't know. Anyway, we won't go there. The pattern was for a fortnight, and it took 8.5 months for them to realise that, to be prepared to make a diagnosis on Giles. And we eventually had the meeting with the consultant who said that Giles had got a degenerative brain disorder, he had lost speech, and we should expect him to lose the other senses, hearing, sight, mobility and everything, which was pretty grim. Even with that consultant and an 8.5-month investigation, really wasn't prepared to accept a diagnosis like that, so suggested in all modesty that we take a second opinion, and he referred us to Great Ormond Street Hospital, the wonderful, famous hospital. I can understand that it's famous, and they were marvellous. They concentrate, though, on physical things and were not terribly helpful in general with learning disability or mental health. I can remember going up and down the stairs there, which were open stairs, and Giles was a wild thing, screaming and pulling wires out of the wall. I mean, he was just mad. And the nurses really didn't know what they'd got there, and I stayed in with him and was still responsible for him, because really the staff didn't know what they were in. But there was a good consultant there who finished up after a fortnight saying, look, we don't quite know what it is, we think it may be autism, but it doesn't really matter what it's called. You have to learn to manage him better.